Bree, I want to introduce you to all these magnificent women. Magnificent women, please meet Bree. We have some. I wonder if you can just speak to where you were at, Bree, in terms of the overwhelm piece. We've just come off the back of talking about that. Like
So funny that you had me on today after you spoke about overwhelm. I don't think that's a coincidence. And I think I'd done a lot of self-help stuff, bit like reading a lot of books, listening to podcasts, dipping into kind of courses here and there, which probably added a lot to my overwhelm, I think, because I was so up in my head doing all of the things and what you were talking about before, but I really struggled to integrate it and to be it. And I yeah, and that's really where I was. And I remember the first session that we had together, I just said, I'm sick of learning all of this stuff and just feeling more overwhelmed by it all and not knowing how to make the changes and really embody the changes. Yeah.
Bree, do you live in your head? And you're like, maybe.
Like, is there another place to live?
And so, okay, so there was this recognition of like, oh, okay, I have all the tools. I have all of it. Like, when you kind of go, but I know this. I know this. We're smart, capable, intelligent women. Yet why aren't I bringing in? So for you, what was the missing piece?
The biggest
what
thing for me was understanding my patterns and really sinking into the patterns that I've established to keep myself safe for a really long time. We come back to over and over and over and over again, and it just allowed me to offer myself so much compassion. And it doesn't mean that I don't still cycle into those patterns most days, but I'm so much more aware of why I do it and able to stop, notice, and then use the tools.
Yeah.
Was like that really before I had no idea. I was just kind of like, I have the tools, why can't I use them?
Yeah.
And it was like a failure. It was, very much that perfectionist mindset, all or nothing. I know all this stuff, why can't I do it? But now I can see that missing link was, well, this is why it's so hard and it's okay.
If someone's in your position now, and because I hear this a lot, right? Like that piece, and I know that you'd mentioned this too, like, oh, it feels like so big to invest in myself in this way. I don't feel like I'm worthy of tapping into the family pool of resources because I don't know, I haven't been working. And for whatever, like, women have different stories around their worthiness around that. And I'm wondering if you could just speak to that and how that showed up for you.
How do I talk to my husband about this? It was just because it was a significant financial commitment. I wanted to have a discussion with him about it. So, as I would appreciate him doing the same with me. And I was so scared to have that chat with him because I just had so many stories swirling around in my head. And it came down to valuing myself and acknowledging that I am such an important part of this family. Like I am the hub of this family, supporting my husband, supporting my kids, running the household, like really valuing myself and saying, this is something I really want to do. And I know, because I knew the value of it. And I knew, especially after that first session, I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to do this with you. All of my own doubts about that. And it was really interesting because I, again, got so in my head about it all that when I actually had that conversation, my husband's a pretty smart man and he knows happy wife, happy life. Like he knows that. So
Yes.
yeah, that sounds great. If you sound really enthusiastic, and he was really supportive. And this is my thing. Often I catastrophize and think about all the ways that things could go wrong instead of just doing the thing. Well, you can kind of pay $100 for a course, and then if you kind of put it on the shelf or you don't integrate it, you've only lost $100. But even myself, I was a bit scared that, wow, I'm really going to have to, if I'm saying I want to embody these changes and I'm making this financial commitment, I really have to do it, So I did feel a little bit like I was putting a lot of pressure on myself, but I think that actually acted as a catalyst to help me really go all in with it.
So what would you say to the woman who's hearing this, either here now or on the replay, like just so in anticipation of what they think their husband might say? What would you say to her?
Firstly, not to overthink it, but secondly, I guess to really try and sink into your heart, because I think when I was able to sink into like my trust and my knowing and all of those beautiful feminine qualities, instead of coming at it from a place of my head, listing all of the reasons and the having not the arguments, but the debate points ready
Yes.
to go, but just really approaching it from a heart-centered place, it really made the difference in it was just more of an authentic conversation, I think.
Like, women have just been in over service to everyone. And so it feels really guilty to actually want something for themselves. When you value yourself with what it is that you do around the house, your contribution to all the invisible, emotional, mental labor, when you really value that, you know that you're worth every cent of that family pool of money, because these were your words, you are the hub of the house.
Mm-hmm.
You remove the hub of the house collapses.
Totally.
So good, right? So good. And then I heard you trusting yourself from that heart space was really this anchoring point that led that conversation for you. So good, so good. Okay, and so if we just kind of bow tie this conversation up with what's been your experience of RTC, of the Relationship Thrive Code?
I think I've just loved it, and what I felt just such a sense of safety in the coaching calls, and then that sisterhood, that real and I remember you saying to me, you were kind of laughing at me because I was like, am I the only crazy person that has these crazy thoughts, because we'd go into the crazy world of my head, and you were like, you wait till you meet everyone else. And in that first call, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not the only person that thinks like this or puts these pressures on myself, or so I just felt so, and that for me is the biggest, I make things about me and I feel so lonely in them, but having that connection to other people who, are sharing similar versions of the things that you're going through, it's so beautiful. And I felt so safe to share the struggles that I had and the questions that I had. So I really got so much out of that. But the practicality of the tools, I feel like I've been able to recall them in the moments where I'm feeling like, this is a wobbly moment. And I am able to recall them because they are so practical, and then kind of implement them. So those are two of the things that I've absolutely loved about it. But that's so much, like I've done a lot of work now with you now. I think it's been over a year. And even in our coaching session just last week, or this week on Tuesday, everything came back to, you're like, remember RTC module 2? We spoke about this. And I was like, oh, this program, just like the gold in it is just highlighted even more and more as we come back to, lots of me navigating lots of different things that I might go through in lots of different relationships, not only with my husband, but with my kids and with friends, because the ultimate thing, like you said before, is that it all comes back to me and understanding how to control, not to control, but how to understand myself and how to control how I respond, because I can't control other people.
When you share what you shared, it's just like this permission. And so I really want to thank you for contributing in that way. And even in this conversation now, just what you're sharing here, I so appreciate you. Guys, can you guys give it up for Bree in the chat box, and just type in the chat box, send her some love, send her some hearts. Those who are catching the replay, please feel free to comment and share if you've resonated with anything that Bree has shared. Bree,